Cold wind passes through the narrow gaps of the cage, but the mother pig doesn't move. Her eyes are fixed on the path where her baby was taken, the only point of focus left in her world. Mammalian maternal bonds are maintained through a complex, hyper-aware sensory network. In a stable state, 4 primary tethers, touch, sound, smell, and sight, work in a synchronized equilibrium to process the environment and the offspring's presence. Forced physical removal violently severs the foundation of this network, the tactile tether. The moment physical contact is lost, the brain registers a catastrophic break in its primary feedback loop. To compensate for the missing touch, the brain pushes the remaining sensory nodes into overdrive. The auditory and olfactory systems expand, pulsing with a high-frequency energy as the mother's neural network desperately attempts to relocate the missing piglet. When the mind is locked in a singular state of traumatic absence, it stops recording the passage of light and dark. Hours and days lose their distinction as the brain remains fixed on a single, localized point of loss. This quiet stillness is a state of hypervigilant cognitive overload. Her entire biological system is pinned under the weight of an ongoing, agonizing search for the missing connection. She retains a vivid physical memory of the separation. She remembers a tiny, trembling body pressing close to her snout, seeking a warmth her own body was designed to provide. Her biological drive to protect her offspring was met by a physical force she could not counter. Human intervention physically overpowered her maternal instincts, creating a conflict the brain cannot resolve. The event left behind a permanent auditory imprint, the fading sound of soft, helpless cries, asking questions her biology could not answer, became the last data point in her memory of him. This unresolved trauma creates a phantom touch. Her psyche remains trapped in the exact second her offspring was pulled away, waiting for a conclusion that never arrives. During the waiting phase, her entire world shrinks. She tracks every micro sound in the dark, filtering the environment exclusively for any sign of her baby's return. In this state, the brain misinterprets random data as a survival mechanism. A shifting breeze or a distant footstep becomes a false signal, a flicker of hope that the missing tether is about to be restored. She projects her own silent signals into the dark. Through small, quiet sounds of her own, she attempts to guide him back to the corner of the cage where she still waits. This persistence of hope acts as a biological stressor. It forces her nervous system to remain in an elevated state of tension, driving her ongoing psychological torment. The return of human footsteps breaks the auditory silence. Her heart rate spikes and her body trembles as her brain prepares for the possibility of a reunion. The humans place a covered tray near the bars. They keep the contents hidden, forcing her to rely on other senses to identify what they've brought. A scent fills the air that her biological instincts recognize instantly. It is the smell of her own kin, yet it is chemically and contextually wrong, a sensory input that does not match the memory of her living baby. This creates profound cognitive dissonance. Her instincts report the presence of her offspring, but her environment signals a fatal deviation from the natural order. When the humans finally uncover the heavy metal tray, the mother's sensory processing shifts entirely to the visual tether. Her visual expectation, soft skin and tiny movements, is met by a brutal, stationary reality. She sees a cooked, lifeless object that no longer resembles the creature she spent days waiting for. Her heavy legs give way as her brain fails to integrate this visual data with the maternal bond. She collapses onto the cold ground, her body physically shutting down under the weight of the realization. The undeniable visual confirmation shatters the architecture of hope she had sustained. The search for her baby ends in a collision with an impossible truth. She makes one final, futile attempt to stretch toward the bars. She tries to reach the tray, attempting to bridge the gap and re-establish the tactile bond one last time. As she accepts the permanence of the loss, her brain shifts from active searching to total internal withdrawal. The sensory network that has been in overdrive for days
finally goes quiet. She lies down and turns her back on the path she had been watching. She ceases her auditory and visual vigilance, abandoning the search entirely. The collapse of her sensory world leaves behind a conscious, unhealable withdrawal. This heavy, resulting silence is a total departure from the environment, a reaction far more complex than any vocal cry of pain.